saying how much I regret that Canada is once again dealing with a U.S. trade action aimed at the Canadian aluminum industry and Canadian aluminum workers. At a time when we are fighting a global pandemic, working on both sides of the Canada-U.S. border to prevent loss of life and preserve jobs, a trade dispute is the last thing anyone needs. It will only hurt the economic recovery on both sides of the border. However, this is what the U.S. administration has chosen to do. Notre position sur les tarifs annoncés hier n'est pas différente de celle que nous avons adoptée en juin 2018, la dernière fois que les Américains ont
imposed unjustified tariffs. The American tariffs are useless, unjustified, and unacceptable. They should be raised or lifted. Allow me to be clear. Canadian aluminum presents no threat to the national security of the U.S. This notion is the justification the Americans are using for these tariffs, and it is absurd. On the contrary, the American industry, including the American defense industry, needs our aluminum. For now decades, Canada has been a reliable supplier of aluminum for American manufacturers with added value products.
Canada's position on tariffs today is exactly what it was in June 2018, when the last round of unwarranted U.S. 232 tariffs was imposed. These tariffs are unnecessary, unwarranted, and entirely unacceptable. They should not be imposed. Let me be clear. Canadian aluminum is in no way a threat to U.S. national security, which remains the ostensible reason for these tariffs. And that is a ludicrous notion. On the contrary, Canadian aluminum is essential for U.S. industry, including the U.S. defense industry. Canada has, for decades, been a reliable supplier of aluminum for U.S. value-added manufacturers. Aluminum trade between Canada and the United States is mutually beneficial for both of our countries, and it makes our interconnected North American aluminum industry more competitive around the world. Let me be clear. In imposing these tariffs, the United States has taken the absurd decision to harm its own people at a time when its economy is suffering the deepest crisis since the Great Depression. Any American who buys a can of beer or of soda, or a car or a bike, will suffer. In fact, the very washing machines manufactured at the Whirlpool plant, where the president made his announcement yesterday, will become more expensive for Americans and less competitive with machines produced elsewhere in the world as a result of these tariffs. These tariffs will hurt American consumers, and they will hurt American workers. Furthermore, with the new NAFTA having come into force on July 1st, now is the time to advance North American economic competitiveness, not to hinder it. Through robust new rules of origin for automobiles, the new NAFTA ensures that 70% of the aluminum purchased by North American automakers needs to be produced in North America. These tariffs will make it harder for the North American car makers NAFTA is designed to support. The Canadian aluminum industry is important to Canada's economy. It provides approximately 10,000 jobs in primary production. It supports tens of thousands of more further jobs in downstream industries. De plus,
in addition, the new NAFTA, which came into effect on July 1st, the time has come to strengthen the North American economic competitiveness and not cause problems. Due to strict rules of origin for the automotive industry, the new NAFTA guarantees that 70% of the aluminum purchased by North American auto manufacturers is produced in North America. The Canadian aluminum industry is important to the Canadian economy. It creates approximately 10,000 direct, well-paid jobs in primary production and supports tens of thousands of other jobs in downstream jobs. Our government will always defend our aluminum industry and Canadian workers, as we have done during the NAFTA negotiations. We will adopt a pan-Canadian approach. While we'll continue to work closely with the leaders of the provinces and territories, industry leaders, and union leaders, I would like to thank them for their solid defense of Canadian national interests. We will defend Canadian workers during the negotiations of the new NAFTA. We did before. The last time the U.S. put in tariffs, and we will defend them now. Canada's response to these unjustified tariffs will be rapid and strong in order to defend our workers. We will impose countermeasures in a balanced and perfectly reciprocal way. For each dollar imposed tariffs that the U.S. tariff, we will match it dollar for dollar. We will not aggravate the situation, but we won't back up either. Following yesterday's announcement from the U.S., the Prime Minister began a period of consultations on a long list of products that contain aluminum. We invite Canadians and Canadian businesses to consult this list, and over the next 30 days, and after that, we will impose our own tariffs.
Our government will always defend our aluminum industry and Canadian workers. As we did during the NAFTA negotiations, we will take a Team Canada approach. I have been and will continue to work closely with leaders of the provinces and territories and with industry and labor. I would like to thank them all for their strong defense of the Canadian national interest, and I look forward to continuing to work closely together. We stood up for Canadian workers during the negotiations of the new NAFTA. We stood up for them during the last round of U.S. trade actions, and we will stand up for them now. In response to these unwarranted tariffs, Canada will respond swiftly and strongly in defense of our workers. We will impose dollar-for-dollar countermeasures in a balanced and perfectly reciprocal retaliation. We will not escalate, and we will not back down. Following yesterday's announcement by the United States, the Prime Minister has decided to launch consultations on a broad and extensive list of aluminum-containing products. We invite Canadians and Canadian businesses to participate in these consultations over the next 30 days, after which we will impose retaliatory tariffs. And now I'm happy to take your questions. Je peux maintenant répondre à vos questions.